From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Friday, August 29th. Here are today's headlines. 3 European countries have launched the process to reinstate UN sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. France, Germany, and the UK on Thursday triggered an unprecedented UN procedure to reimpose sanctions they consider Iran in breach of a nuclear deal. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was warned in a phone call an hour ahead of the decision. He responded on Thursday that Iran, quote, will respond appropriately to this illegal and unjustified action, unquote. That's according to the Tasnim news agency. The National Sunniva Rose reports.
Is snapback a big deal? Yes and no. Iran is already under a US embargo, which is extraterritorial. That means it can be applied across the planet. But UN sanctions will affect, for example, Iranian oil trade with Russia and China. And Iran's economy is struggling with high inflation, so UN sanctions will likely only make that worse.
The group is known as the E3. They had informed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio of their decision in a call on Wednesday. Rubio is understood to have supported the move. There was also outreach in the previous months between the E3 and Russia. A call between French President Emmanuel Macron and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin took place in July for the first time in 3 years to discuss Iran.
Europeans have 3 main requests from Iran: to set up a mechanism to account for an unaccounted for stockpile of enriched uranium. Iran says it can't do that because the uranium is likely under rubble caused by Israeli strikes in June. Second, Europeans want Iran to fully cooperate with inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, which have been allowed to return to Iran this week for the first time since the 12-day war, but only to Bushehr, which is a civil nuclear power plant. And last, the Europeans want Iran to engage in direct diplomatic negotiations with the US. Indirect talks had started in April but were interrupted by the Israeli strikes.
The E3 had a deadline of late August to launch the so-called snapback mechanism before the deal expires on October 18th. A British official said Iran's stockpile was 45 times the deal's cap on enriched uranium. The number of advanced centrifuges in operation was 10 times the deal's limit. That was before the recent 12-day war with Israel and the U.S. resulted in agency inspectors withdrawing from those sites.
Iran has threatened to leave the non-proliferation treaty if snapback is triggered. Europeans don't actually think it'll go so far, though it may threaten to do so. Iran may also reduce its cooperation with the IAEA. And finally, it could also lay the blame on Europe if Israel feels emboldened again in striking Iran.
Israel has published a new map identifying so-called safe zones in Gaza. But it contradicts another map published on a different official channel. The orders have left residents in Gaza confused and alarmed. The National's Thomas Helm reports from Jerusalem.
Areas on this map that are marked in blue, meaning they are safe for people to go to, on another Israeli military map found on their website, are marked as red, meaning a dangerous area where military operations are taking place and civilians should not enter. We asked the Israeli military to clarify this discrepancy, and we didn't get a response as of Thursday late afternoon. But on top of that, there's serious risks, people say, with moving to these areas. There's no idea about which routes are safe because obviously there's a great deal of fighting still going on in Gaza. So if anyone does want to move, they're not sure the best, safest routes to do so.
Local authorities and humanitarian organizations report that the areas the military has told people to flee to are full and that they don't have adequate services to sustain the displaced. The Israeli military's Arabic spokesperson Avichai Adrai said that anybody moving south, quote, will receive the most abundant humanitarian aid, unquote. Humanitarian sources who spoke to the National said this was highly unlikely.
Some of the humanitarian sources that I was speaking to said that quite a few people in Gaza City are opting to just stay put and that they would rather stay and die in Gaza City in dignity than have to make this dangerous journey into potentially squalid conditions. If this happens en masse, then Gaza City will remain heavily populated as the Israeli military launches this massive conquest that has driven so much concern from the international community and humanitarian organizations.
Israel's government approved a plan to take over Gaza City earlier this month. The UN officially declared famine in the Gaza governorate of the Strip, which includes Gaza City, last week. It expects famine to spread to Deir al-Balah and Khan Yunis further south by the end of September.
The whole thing raises questions around the extent to which the military actually has a plan, because these orders seem totally unworkable. And as signs mount that the army really is committed to this massive conquest, it seems there's not much time at all for people to make themselves safe.
Israel has landed commandos on the outskirts of Damascus. That's according to Syrian state media. It's one of Israel's biggest military operations so far against Syria's new government. The attack is believed to have targeted a military site once used by Iranian intelligence under the rule of Syria's former president Bashar al-Assad. Arab countries have condemned a series of Israeli attacks on Syria this week. The National's Khaled Yacoub Oweis reports.
Syrian authorities say there is no available information about the objective of the Israeli operation. However, a source in Jordan said it was apparently aimed at retrieving monitoring and reconnaissance equipment that Israel had planted in the area. Syrian state media quoted a Syrian military official as saying that the army had discovered listening equipment at the site, but it did not say whom the equipment belonged to.
Tension has been high between Israel and Syria since an Israeli military intervention prevented a Syrian government takeover of the mostly Druze province of Sweda last month. As of Thursday, the Israeli military did not comment on Wednesday's operation. That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow more of our live coverage at our site. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.